Hopes raised and hopes dashed. That is the story of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill that was passed by the two chambers of the National Assembly. Some lawmakers were in favor of an electronic transfer of results, and others put a caveat on any kind of electronic transmission of election results. It has even turned to a quarrel between the All Progressives Congress, accused of undermining the conduct of a credible, free and fair election, and the People's Democratic Party, also accused of seeking an electronic transfer so that they can hack the process and tamper with results to their own advantage. This is Politics on Sunday. I am Femi Akonde. Let's get Emmanuel Njoku's perspective. He is the programs officer at Connected Development. What transpired at the National Assembly, both houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives, did it meet your expectations?
No, of course, it didn't meet my expectations.
What were your expectations?
Well, when I say it didn't meet my expectations, particularly as regards the very contentious part of the Electoral Amendment Bill, which speaks to electronic transmission of election result votes. So over the years, we've been campaigning for this because we understand that this is the basis of giving an election integrity, to make the results really count, to make people's votes genuinely count. So it hurt me really bad that that very particular section of that bill didn't go through. I felt very disappointed in the legislators. I felt very disappointed in all of the activities that happened within yesterday and today. I felt disappointed in some of the senators and some of the representatives, and I felt worse for the ones that were not even present to even vote or not to vote.
A huge number of them were
yes, a huge number of them.
About 28 of them.
Yeah, in the Senate, that's a whole lot. I mean, so what are you doing there? Because this is the time you are needed. The Nigeria needs you the most. Your constituents needs you the most, and you are not there. How can you not be there?
But you know, they have an alibi in the Nigerian Communications Commission that have now come out to say that just about 50% of the spread of polling units across the country is covered by the 3G network. You know, so I was expecting that the executive secretary, executive chairman of NCC would have been there to say that. So it's not new. Before now, INEC has been working with NCC. INEC that even proposed this thing knows that this thing is possible. Because INEC has presence in all the local government, not just all the local government. INEC has presence in all the, every single part of this country. So they understand that this thing works. It works in Edo and Ondo election. There's no network in all the parts of Ondo or Edo elections. But then they were able to transmit, because, so like they argued, it's not just necessarily about network coverage in the particular polling unit, but there's what they call registration areas. They call it RACTEX, and they call it RACTEX. Every presiding officer gets back to the RACTEX, and once you upload, it doesn't have to go immediately, but before the end, like we saw in Ondo and the election, by midnight of that day, over 95% of all the results had already dropped. So how can we miss the opportunity? So you know, it hurts me most that I look at our legislators, and I feel they don't make laws for the future, for their children's children. So they make laws just for themselves. Because if you are really interested in the future of democracy and the hope of democracy and the laws that will guide our children's children, this is very germane as regards progress in electoral conversation. But who is afraid of an electronic transmission of results, and why are they afraid of this?
So me and you understand. So talking about using technology deploying technology in the elections, let me say this thing. I feel it has 4 legs as regards how it will make our electoral processes better. The first leg is what INEC is currently doing now, the registration, voter registration that people are allowed to use to go online to do pre-registration. The second leg of this is the election day process, where people are expected to come and you must use the card reader to do accreditation. That's another second leg, which is very important, which is a big win, by the way, in this amendment process. It's a big win because it means that we are no longer going to entertain the use of incidence forms. So people must turn up, and it's only what is accredited on the card reader that will be used. So you cannot have a polling unit where you have, for instance, let's say you have 1,000 registered voters, and people that turn up to vote is 200 persons that turn up to vote. You can't have 700 votes like we used to have before. It has to be that 200 votes. So that in itself is a good part. The third leg of this thing is the electronic voting, which clearly wasn't even brought up, didn't work. And then the fourth leg of it is the transmission of votes. So clearly, I know that this some of our legislators understand that if this part pulls through, a lot of them will not return to the National Assembly, I tell you, a lot of them. Because the credibility of the election will make more people participate and stand the chance to win.
Another issue that came up is a lot of people raised concerns about the attempt to further stifle or reduce the independence of the Electoral Commission. They said it's only the NCC that can adjudge, the NCC and even the National Assembly that can adjudge or that can determine if or what mode the results would be transmitted. The INEC cannot solely and independently determine the mode of transmission.
So I feel that is an illegality, which time will tell. I believe INEC will. I believe at the point of harmonization, and at some point that has to be corrected, because the constitution that gives INEC power gives INEC total powers to organize an election and everything that has to do with elections. He cannot now usurp the powers of INEC to give it to NCC subject to the approval of the Senate. So you are giving INEC the powers of undermining INEC and giving powers to Senate. I feel it's an illegality that will not stand.
I remember this Electoral Act Amendment Bill was passed by the 8th Senate, but it was rejected by the President. Was the document passed by the 8th
Ibrahim
Senate?
Abdullahi Nambaba from Sokoto State.
I can't say exactly. I can't say exactly because I mean it didn't pass. So I don't think we should be talking about it because it didn't succeed. But the one that has happened now, I must say there are some parts of it that are going to bring changes to our electoral. It's sad that we didn't get that section 52, subsection 2. But again, so there's a part of this, there are different parts of this amendment that brings light and brings
Let's
hope.
talk about this part.
Yes. So first off, I think it's the section 87 that talks about, that speaks to how party primaries should happen. So you know the biggest challenge in our electoral process is the party primaries, how candidates emerge from political parties. So before now, like a number election is coming up now, you see that ABGA, I think ABGA has two candidates.
INEC just recognized one candidate.
So, but all those issues in this amendment bill has been addressed. So it has been stated clearly, first of all. So what happens is that you tell people that you are disqualified for very flimsy reasons. That's what political parties do, to choose their preferred candidates. You say you don't have a PVC, so you can't, your father doesn't have a house in the village, you cannot participate. No. Now the section 87 of this bill, or 88 of this bill, has specified clearly how party primaries must happen. You can no longer say party primary will happen in TVC and you just change the venue and take it somewhere in Asokoro. No. Party primaries must be, the date must be put out there, must be published in newspapers. So all of these issues makes it very clear. And you can't just come up and bring up very funny figures as nomination form fee. No. The law has stipulated clearly what should be and what shouldn't be. Another part of this bill that is a win for Nigeria is this, I think, section 67, where usually we saw in 2019 election, we had, I think, 2 senators in that same, and one of those senators wasn't even there to vote. And he's a senator from my state, Rocha Zakuracha. So remember in that election that it was said that the senator made the returning officer to declare the results under duress. As at then, the law then wouldn't allow INEC to review results if a returning officer declares a result with a gun in his head. But with this now, INEC has been given powers to review results after all of these things. That's 2. Then 3, like I mentioned earlier, before now, the law, there was no, it was a policy of INEC to say, hey, that card readers must be used, should be used. But now, with what has happened now, it has been legalized. It is now mandatory. There's no longer option of incidents. So what happens before is when you come to elections, so the people that want to rig the process will tell you that this card reader is not working, or they'll make it not to work, and they say it's not working, so bring out the incidence form. They'll just fill in the names of everybody, and then multiple voting happens. But now, that section, I think it's section 47, subsection 2 of this bill, now says that if the card reader doesn't work, and it must be replaced. If the second one that they brought fails to work, election in that polling unit will be cancelled and another date will be scheduled within 24 hours. So far as the outcome of the election and the difference in that polling unit of registered voters will not affect the results already declared. So it simply means that card reader is now mandatory. That is good. Accreditation of votes is now must be what is in the card reader. So these and many more wins. So it's a good thing.
But so many people again saw different kinds of undertone. We could see people voting on party lines, regional lines, and all of that. What does this say about the kind of representation we have at the National Assembly? You
know, they say politics is not a moral affair. So I don't know, I understood there were conversations behind the scene where they were directed to vote along party lines. If you watched yesterday, the first time they did a voice voting on that section 52, clearly the people that shouted the ayes that supported it, there were more. And the nays were lesser. And in the full glare of Nigerians on national TV, the deputy speaker who was presiding ruled against the people that had the more voices. And he stood his ground. That was disgraceful. I mean, given that young people were watching, youths were watching, looking at people that are your leaders, lie in the face of Nigerians. And that was what caused the whole chaos and brought us to where disappointed where we are today.
But how do we expect them to vote in favor of electronic voting when even at the House of Representatives and even the Senate, they do not even use electronic voting?
So that was why, for me, it was embarrassing that this voting dragged on till today. There was no reason why they shouldn't do electronic voting. A lot of millions of naira has been budgeted and I think released.
The House of Representatives, the Speaker promised and it still failed.
And then that didn't happen. Yeah. Then what people say, so we're talking about accountability. Our legislators need to get to a point where the votes they make represents our interests and they should be accountable for any vote they make. So we are supposed to have seen how they voted, because all of these things what is supposed to shape on our electoral choices in 2023 to know if we should say we should vote here or shouldn't vote succeed. So I'm happy that we've gone halfway by the Senate and National Assembly doing the needful. Now we will now appeal to the Nigerian president himself to do the needful as well, to assent to all of this, and so we can move forward.
For many Electoral Act advocacy groups that witnessed firsthand the proceedings at the National Assembly to pass the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, the whole episode was filled with mixed feelings for them. God bless Otubure, global president of Ready to Lead Africa, was on the floor of the House of Representatives when he says a wrong call was made by the Deputy Speaker, Idris Wase. Watch this.
Electronic transmission of result done! Done! We got it!
I saw a video of you jubilating before even there was a change in sides. Was your joy short-lived?
On the floor that day, absolutely was short-lived because I was right there when the vote call was made by voice vote, and ayes for the amendment, as was raised by Honorable Tony, got the highest level of ayes, and those who were opposing with the nay wasn't as high as those who were saying ayes. And when the Deputy Speaker ruled, the initial thought was the ayes have it, but apparently what he was saying was the nays had it. And when he said the ayes had it, we just went into jubilation, and right there,
without waiting for his ruling,
because it was clear. I mean, it's like, look, the procedure for voting in the House is not by, except on other cases where you can then say, okay, let us vote. But with the procedure of the House, the ayes were stronger than the nays.
Well, don't you think if the House had voted electronically, it would have been more transparent and the ayes would have carried it? How then do you expect them to adopt an electronic transmission of results?
Well, how then do I expect them? It's not a question of how then do I expect them. It is what they need to do. It's not like we want to do it. You know, Femi, you see, there are a lot of people who don't understand their job description. When you're a public office holder, and I think that is the most important thing for an emerging generation of would-be public office holders, that's the most sacred of responsibilities on the surface of the earth, other than maybe religious leaders who channel people to their God. But if you're a public office holder, your job description is that at every time, if you're voting 10 times, society comes 10 times.
How then would you address this growing concern about that attempt to undermine the independence of the Electoral Commission by insisting that the Nigerian Communications Commission would have adjudged the process or would determine if it is okay for INEC to transmit electronically before that can be done?
Isn't it laughable? I mean, you are asking, isn't it laughable to you? So we're conducting an election right now. So we have to subject that to NCC's approval or advice, and then, or the National Assembly's approval. Look, where is the independence of INEC? Part of what we were also working on this bill for the last 2.5 years was that we wanted INEC to be better supported, to have more power, especially with even their funding. And now we have a situation where the umpire's decision is subject to a participant's approval or another institution of government. No.
God bless. Some people have said it's not just gloom and doom, that there are still some things to cheer about in this new electoral bill.
Femi, I'll say this. We didn't come this far to just be average, right? And to be honest, the biggest loser here are Nigerians. But if you want me to call the biggest loser today, it's the president of Nigeria.
How so?
Because what we had hoped with his promise to us when he signed the Not Too Young to Run bill was that when we call the name of Goodluck Jonathan, we put equal to card reader, right? Our hope for his legacy was that when we say Muhammadu Buhari, we're going to put equal to electronic transmission.
But the card reader has also been institutionalized with this new bill.
Yeah, so now that you have the card reader being a tenable legal instrument in the electioneering process, it means that somebody was bold enough to tell the House, to say, look, I am going to run for an election, but we have to do what is right by the country. And I want to believe that that's what the president also did. And we've stated it many times, and we've told him through different channels to say that, look, these guys are working to scuttle your legacy. And sorry, Mr. President, it's like they just succeeded in doing so. I
spoke earlier with someone from Connected Development, and I asked him who is afraid of an electronic transmission of results and why.
The person who is afraid of electronically transmitting election results is the person who does not trust that he is popular enough to win an election and let the results from the polling units reflect what the people are saying. That's the person. We don't know what party they belong. But when you look at what has happened with the votes and the people who are so bent on not transmitting results electronically, you have your answer.
But some people are saying that there were some undercurrents that determined how people voted on this matter. What sentiments did you perceive came to play?
So undercurrent, yes. There are people who are aligned to their region, and it's sad. They're aligned to the region that they're protecting them. No, they're not. What they've done is to continually oppress their people, keep them small, poor and dependent on them. Look, and I'm saying to every one member of the House or Senate who voted against the express, inclusion of the word results from elections in this act shall be transmitted electronically. Those who voted against it, I'm telling them this word. You can no longer hide, because the people that you are representing, that demographic is changing. And you see these young people who you think you are subjugating today, they have access to phones now. They see how people live in other parts of the world, in other parts of the country. Your day of reckoning is coming.
God bless. The bill passed by the House of Representatives and that done by the Senate will be harmonized and then transmitted to Mr. President for his assent. What do you expect the President to do? Reject it or sign it?
You see, so the bill that was passed by the House, when you look at 50 subsection 2, it says that INEC is empowered to transmit the results of elections by whatever means they determine. Now, what does it mean? It means INEC can say, we're transmitting results here electronically, here manually. That isn't what those of us who were working on this bill, partnering with the media, the members of the House and other development partners were looking at. What we wanted to do was to say, let's take the major step forward, which is transmit results electronically. It doesn't take away the fact that there will be manual paper trail. No.
But do you also take into cognizance what the Nigerian Communications Commission have said, that only 50% of the widespread of Nigeria's polling units is covered by the 3G network, and you would need at least a 3G network to electronically transmit results.
So let me say this, and I think I need to address this frontally. I was in the House. The head of technical communication, I want to believe so. I can't remember his name because the mic wasn't too good when he was speaking with his name and they had to increase it. If you listened to what the man said, what he said was, in 2018, I need to state that clearly, in 2018 was when they did the analysis, Femi. It wasn't in 2021. So they did the analysis to say, how many polling units did they look at? 119,000. By the man's submission, only 8,000 was not captured. Just 8,000.
Yeah.
Meaning 12,000 or
polling units
across the country are captured. Meaning we can literally digitize that process for more than 95%, if I'm correct, of the polling unit. Now, go back a little bit, dial back a bit. That was 2018. So what does it mean? It means that with the advancement of technology and the involvement of investment and all of that, we've made better progress. That is why INEC could do the electronic transmission of results in Edo, Ondo, and Nasarawa, because progress is happening. What does it tell you? NCC did not, and I will repeat it, did not in their submission on the floor. I witnessed it. I saw them speak. I saw them take the oath to speak the truth and nothing but the truth. They did not say that it is impossible to transmit results electronically. They gave analysis of the data and bandwidth reach. They talked about the fact that we just have 50% that has 3G network, and then they talked about 2G. For the other 49%. So a tiny fraction is what is not covered. So Femi, is 2023 election happening tomorrow? Yes, but it's not this tomorrow. That is the next date. That is 2 years from now. And Nigerians looking at the world and telling them that we cannot fix a technological challenge in 2 years so we can have a credible electoral process.
But clearly it appears as if an outdated survey by the NCC has now defined our reality. And that is what these lawmakers are hanging on to, because this bill needs to be passed and things need to be put in black and white.
Femi, it was just a deliberate ploy by those who are afraid that they are not popular within their constituents, that they don't believe that this country should move forward. Those are the people that did not ask the question. When those in the opposition were asking the question, they asked the man, how long will it take for us to fix the problem? They didn't say, oh, because they had to point it out. Don't tell me 50% was covered or is what is covered. That was 3 years ago. So literally what they did, in fact, NCC should be queried. Why would you come and give a data report that you did not put a caveat on? To say, oh, this report that we're sharing, this data we're sharing, is 2018, right? Progress would have been made. We don't have the new data, but progress would have been made.
How should citizens keep hopes alive? Because clearly what happened with the Electoral Act Amendment Bill has dampened the mood of a lot of people who expected more out of this process.
Well, how should citizens keep hope alive? Look, I think I'll probably just speak to Nigerians directly now. It was frustrating. That wasn't what we were expecting. We thought it would have been better. But the work of democracy is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And for every time where the cynics and those who have told us that we cannot, and those who have decided to keep the status quo, for every time that they've tried to keep the people down, we must turn back to that people creed, that yes, we can.
All right.
That our hopes may have been dashed today, it does not mean that that will be our reality moving forward.
All right. That is our program this week. You can watch the program again on TVC News YouTube channel. Also share it on all social media platforms and subscribe to the channel to get the latest news and updates. Thank you for watching.